Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Colleen Francis, international sales strategist, best-selling author, and founder of Engage Selling Solutions, a global consultancy and training firm that helps organizations drive consistent revenue growth. With more than 2 decades of experience in B2B sales leadership, Colleen has worked with some of the world's largest companies, helping them redesign their sales processes, strengthen leadership, and improve sales performance. She's also been recognized as LinkedIn's number one sales influencer and introduced into the Professional Speaking Hall of Fame, making her one of the most respected voices in modern sales strategy. Colleen, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.
I am happy to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
As am I, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And Colleen, with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning of their journey. So
Sure.
if you don't mind taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started up Engage Selling Solutions, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
So, I have an interesting past in starting my sales consulting career because it's really the only job I've ever had. Like, we could go way back into when I was in elementary school and my dad was in sales and he used to take me to work when I had days off school, right? So the move into sales was a really natural progression for me. And when I graduated from university, I went directly into sales. I worked for a while in the insurance markets, so on the B2C side, actually, life insurance and health and dental plans before I moved into tech sales. And in tech sales, I was on the software side, and this is where I really was for the large part of my career before I started Engage. We were in B2B document management, records management. And I worked for a company. We went through an acquisition. I enjoyed working with the startup side of the business more than being I would just call it a middle sales executive inside a big sales team. So I went back into smaller companies and smaller startups until, oh gosh, I guess it was 2001 when the bubble burst, right? And that's when I decided to go out on my own.
I love it. So 2001. And did you always, I know you always obviously was interested in sales and actually coming from your father as well, but did you always wanted to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur? Was that something that you considered growing up as well? Or did that just naturally happen?
No, it never crossed my mind. I mean, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I didn't have any friends who were entrepreneurs. And so really wasn't something that was part of I would say it wasn't part of my DNA, and it certainly wasn't part of my environmental
Gotcha.
upbringing as well. And interestingly, it was a friend or a colleague who was also in the sales training business who I got to know as an employee when we went to sales training. And, when things kind of fell apart and I realized that there were a lot of startup companies who needed help but didn't need full-time employment, Steve really encouraged me to just start on my own.
Nice. I love it. And you took it from there. It's nice that you had that little bit of a nudge
Yeah.
along the way. And I feel like obviously having such an experienced career in sales, I feel like naturally that entrepreneurship would have been within you anyway, because you have to have a little bit of something to get that far in sales. You have to be that kind of step above the rest, which is what entrepreneurship is as
Yes.
well.
I've often said that people who are salespeople who then start businesses or sales leaders do have a natural advantage because
Yeah.
we are natural marketers, we're natural salespeople, we're not afraid to talk to people, we're not afraid of making cold calls. And for many entrepreneurs, they want to do the work of their business, but the sales and marketing part does not come naturally to them. I mean, if they're an
Yeah.
engineer that starts an engineering business, or an IT pro who starts an IT business, or even a landscaper who loves to landscape, but the selling and the marketing is very hard for people who don't come by it through a natural career path.
I could not agree more. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely a skill you can learn, but if you come into that with it already, it makes your
Absolutely.
life so much easier. I could not agree with you. And
Yes.
it's just the confidence you need and the thicker skin as well, I think is what sales give you to, as you say, just kind of like speak to anybody, pick up the phone whenever you need to, hear a no, which is a big thing for founders at the start, is hearing that no and just moving on to the next one. Sales
Yeah.
kind of gives you that bounce back feed that you need every day to move forward now.
Absolutely. Yes.
So with all that being said, let's dive into the business a little bit more then, just so the listeners can
True.
have some context moving forward. So, Colleen, when it does come to engage selling solutions, who would you say like is your ideal client? Like who do you very, very much love to work with the most? And then from there, how does you help them? And how do you support them?
That's a great question. I mean, over the 20 years that I've had the company, our ideal client has shifted, and I would say it's a little bit more sociographic than it is, hard to find. I mean, it's definitely B2B, but I really love to work in highly competitive markets.
Okay.
I work best in fact, I have a lot of clients who are true commodities, oil and gas, fertilizer, farm equipment, things like that. But I really love working in highly competitive environments where sellers and leaders are forced to think very creative about their value proposition and how it can be expanded inside an organization. So
Mm.
I help companies and salespeople truly recognize that they can create an apples to oranges comparison in the marketplace, if I could say that, and that their value prop, well, it might be if I take a CRM as an example, right? Like if it's to help salespeople be more productive, that actually has cascading effects to add value to the finance department and to the HR department and the leadership team and operations and manufacturing, if it's, manufacturing and potentially, operations and logistics. And if
Yeah.
I can get salespeople in competitive environments, especially to think broadly like that, we can be talking to different people, we can be sharing different value, and we can set ourselves apart from that competition, which means that they're not selling based on price and availability.
Yeah, that it's more kind of emotional based. Is that me kind of jumping the wrong gun a little bit?
It's not, I'm not sure it's emotional based. Because we work really hard at making that value incredibly tangible.
Gotcha.
I push salespeople to think about all value as tangible. Like they might say, well, we
Okay.
just make people feel better. Well, okay, why do they why do they care about
Why?
that, right? So if
Yeah.
we can add a hardcore
Love
tangible
that.
value, sure.
Yeah.
I think Challenger would say that, that's that is definitely an emotional response, right? Because they're gonna feel it. But we want to do that based on facts and figures and return on
Yeah.
investment because my experience in today's market is that's what buyers are really concerned about.
Yeah, especially in that B2B sector as well. And if they are in
Yeah,
that competitive nature, it is those numbers that they are comparing to kind of drive it from there. And then
absolutely.
obviously with the back of that being said, I take it you're having to make sure the whole organization is in unison as well. Because a lot of people I speak to, especially when, they're getting in there in the trenches with the sales team, they'll find that the marketing team isn't in sync. The messaging or the information relaying around the company really doesn't align
Yeah.
with what you're actually selling.
No, or it doesn't align with the different people,
They're
stakeholders, if I
different
could call it
departments.
that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find it's too single tracked. So it's really
Yeah.
focusing on, it's focusing and it's sort of a classic sales and marketing mistake that we come by honestly because, I laugh and say I wrote about this in my first book in, I don't know when that was, 10 years ago. And now I'm like, just tear out that chapter and don't even use it anymore. It's, we focus on that ideal avatar or ideal customer, which isn't wrong unless it's the only thing you do. Because if it's
Yeah.
the only thing you do and everybody is focused on that ideal customer, then you've just commoditized yourself. So I would
Yeah.
like to see that marketing message say, hey, let's talk about the value we provide to a completely different and what might seem unrelated job function so that we're the only voice in that space.
Yeah, it
Mm.
makes more sense, as you say, just like the process. And do you very much
Yeah.
get in the trenches when you're there? Like, how is it you kind of integrate yourself with the companies to obviously get that growth you're looking for?
Yeah. The last 10 years, I would say I've been involved in almost exclusively really large projects where we are integrated, right into the organization because I'm running programs to support the training on the front end to get people ready for training, maybe training, unless we're using a methodology that is separate from what I do. And then the post training implementation, and that's the coaching side. Because my experience over the years is that quite frankly, all sales processes can work. I mean, my line is it has to be legal, moral, and ethical. I don't like if you want to use those big names, if you've got like spin embedded or challenger or sandler or solution selling or medpic or like any of those processes, it doesn't matter as long as they're implemented and coached. And
Yeah.
so I will embed myself with the sales leaders, helping them roll out implementation programs that force, if I could say, maybe compliance before commitment, force sellers to practice a skill and report back on where they were successful, where there were pinch points, and provide coaching on that, and provide coaching on pipeline development and
Yeah.
closing qualification to make sure that whatever the methodology is, mine or otherwise, sticks inside the organization.
Nice. And again, making sure, I suppose it's being translated as well, so every individual. So
Yes,
again, that message is always the same, no matter what kind of department or even salesperson you're speaking to. It's very much in
absolutely.
unison. Beautiful. Now, one thing I'm very curious to find out naturally is when you're talking to big organizations, it's very hard to kind of get your foot in the door. So, like, how do you go about acquiring your customers? Like, what channels or methods are you just finding most effective in finding those right people to work with?
Yeah, you know what? It's a variety. So I would say for me, because I speak, there's speakers bureaus, right? And sometimes the bureaus have great relationships. I would say my two biggest clients over the last 20 years came because a speakers bureau who
Yeah.
supports me put me in front of their sales kickoff meeting, right? So there's that. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I do my own marketing, of course, whether it be on LinkedIn or through our newsletter lists. Um, you know, uh, Podcasts, webinars, LinkedIn Lives, all of those. And then the vast majority of my business these days comes from either referral or word of mouth. It's been interesting
Yeah.
because I've been around so long. There's a lot of sellers that I've trained over the years who are now sales leaders who remember that we work together and then reach out and connect. So it has become a bit of an ecosystem, I would say.
Yeah, kind of a full circle moment as well as you say. If you're
It
training them
is.
early stage of their career and they're kind of taking up, it's a nice effect. And I think
It is.
the great thing with the referrals is obviously it just shows kudos to the work you are doing. You know, they've come with a great, obviously testimonial off the back of it, and it's just nice. They know your approach coming into it. I feel like
Yeah.
most founders wish they could have a great referral system coming through. They're just not as consistent as you want them to be. But then
Yeah.
you're adding on speaking, LinkedIn, so being very intentional whether you're spending your time, putting your messaging across and actually just attracting those right kind of people. Have you ever run any form of paid advertisements, maybe just to bring a little bit more consistency to what you're doing?
I had in the past. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah,
What we were targeting some very specific industries in the past, and so we tried, and it was fine. It's just not right for the business now for me.
fair enough. Now, as you
Yeah,
say, think too that as you kind of grow through, you said naturally 20 years plus, things are going to be changing as you need them to. And
absolutely.
do you have a team that are helping you out, or do you still kind of wear cover most of the hats yourself as a founder?
No, I do have a team. We're doing everything in-house, but it is a small but mighty team. So they handle, well, I create the content and am the face and the delivery of everything. They will run, for example, all of the marketing. So they do all the pushing out of the marketing. They will do the responding of leads coming in if I'm in a workshop.
Cool.
Um, and they will also do all the project management work behind the scenes if we are going to roll something out that's, months of work or annualized.
Nice. It's nice that you have the support of a team. It can be
Yeah,
obviously a lonely place, but obviously just so you can stick to your zone of brilliance and it just allows yourself to just keep working. As you say, they can pick
absolutely.
up the leads, they can pick up the admin, just a little nuanced jobs that do take a lot of time that you don't necessarily need to be doing yourself, which
And
is
that I'm
cool.
terrible at.
It's
I
very
mean,
good
I
though.
do think founders, of all sizes, whether you be a founder of a company of one or 100 or 1,000, you have to recognize really on where your strengths and weaknesses are. And like my weakness is project organization, right? Like I just couldn't have got through the last 10 years without a true expert in that space for me. And knowing that is important. Otherwise, I probably would not have had a successful project.
No, it's good. And it's great, like great tips for any founders that are listening. You know, that's why you get employed as a sales specialist because they're not good at that role. So it just naturally makes sense to employ someone that is good at the jobs, not even that you're not good at, you just don't
Yeah.
want to be doing either. You know, it just makes so
Yeah.
much sense. I'll let you say that you're not good at it because I don't know what it's like to work with you. But and then obviously we are at the start of 2026. So like naturally, what are your kind of visions or aspirations for the company moving forward? You know, maybe when you think of the next 6, 12 months, like what are the goals or the targets that you're hopefully looking forward to achieving?
Yeah, I'm in a transition mode in the business, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm working hard on content development. What I
Okay.
have discovered over the last few years of rolling out these really embedded, involved projects. I've realized that there is a big piece missing on the sales coaching side, and that so many sales leaders don't actually know how to coach in the details. They don't actually treat their salespeople like they want their salespeople to treat their customers in terms of doing a deep dive into, say, the discovery or the qualification, the reasons
Yeah.
why. They don't push hard to find out if there's multiple stakeholders we should be talking to or expand that reach. And they often let salespeople off the hook. And honestly, that's one of the, I would say it's the top two reasons why pipelines fail, sales fail, people fail to close. So I'm working on some different content where we're going to provide that kind of coaching in a live environment. Workshops where you bring opportunities and we do live coaching in front of the team, in front of you, in front of your sales leader, so that everyone can see what I'm looking for. Because
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know it's hard for people to work in kind of that theory based, like, hey, let's work on some case studies and then take that back to your operation. I think that if we do that work live, it's hard. I will tell you, it is really hard on salespeople.
No,
In
it
a
is.
good way, like, it's in a thinking way. But that I think is going to provide some different opportunities and some new fun for me.
100%. And it is so much easier said than done, as you said yourself. It's the nuances as a salespeople. I've worked in sales myself, and I feel like being in the trenches is way more fun than when you are doing the coaching or the training. You feel like you're in a spotlight and you just go,
Yeah.
"Whoa, I don't know what's going on." Like,
Yeah,
because
well,
you are so
that's good.
natural. Sometimes you are so natural and so off the cuff because you have to be so agile with how you're speaking and who you're speaking to. Very different people, personalities have to come into consideration. So yeah, I'm definitely more sales training is definitely 100% a great aspect, but for the
Yeah.
actual people doing it, it can be a bit of a
Yeah,
blast.
and
I
and
agree.
I had some really interesting experiences last year with some teams. I would call them younger teams that I was working with, where they found it so powerful in the training when we moved from this general concept of here's how to have a discovery to, okay,
Yeah,
well, tell me about an opportunity you're working on and why it stalled. And then I started peppering them, I'll say it, peppering them with questions on, well, what about this, that, this, that? And you could see their brains working. And
yeah,
one of my clients said that, like, the team says that that is the best training they've ever had. How can we do more of that? And
love it.
that didn't just happen in isolation. So, like, I think it must be. I started to notice a pattern, that sellers in the room, whether they're experienced sellers or younger, like newer sellers, are really benefiting from that hands-on tactical sales training focused on an opportunity in play right then and there, as opposed to
Yeah.
a more, hey, let's have a full day session on how to handle objections, right?
Yeah, as you say, it makes it more practical. It's almost like taking sports training into account and kind of merging it into the business world. Like if you had football, you have your phases of play, you have your defense and your offense. You're going to work through those videos, you're going to watch, you're going to stop, the coach is going to ask you questions throughout. So it's just applying that same theory to
Yeah,
like in-person coaching, which is exactly a beautiful thing
yeah,
moving forward.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
probably you yourself at the moment, either like taking those next steps or within the business.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
I have you went in and out a little bit there on that question, so I did not catch that.
Oh, no worries. So are we up to date now? Because I think we dropped a little bit.
Yeah, we are up to date now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I was just saying, where are you probably finding the biggest challenge for yourself at the moment within the business or even taking those next steps?
Um, the biggest challenge for me is that I'm a highly opportunistic person in a positive way. And so I tend to say yes to everything that comes my way. And, the next iteration for me in the business is to actually stop doing that, take the time, think about what the next step is, and be a little bit more innovative or entrepreneurial in a sense, and be directive as opposed to just saying, oh, yeah, I can do that. I love working with customers and I love working with a broad range of customers. So my default position is to not say, no, that's not a right fit, or no, that's not the right way to be thinking about it. And so I need to just take the time, quite honestly, create a new strategy and launch, and start talking to people about it.
Yeah, as you say, kind of realizing where you can put your efforts and just take it from there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like do you feel like when you do get a new sector or even new business that you've not really helped out, like an organization you've not really helped with before, you see it as a challenge to kind of get yourself in there? Are you that kind of mindset? when you're
A challenge in a positive way. Yes. I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean.
I
Like,
love working with new customers.
yeah,
And, you know, and
exactly.
my customers range, you know, I spent a few months rolling out training with John Deere in their like lawn tractor, you know, and small ag equipment. And that was super fun because I had to learn how to sell ride-on lawnmowers. And then I did, you know, a year and a half or so of work with an identity verification fraud solutions on the payment side. And that was really fun because I got to learn like about how people were defrauding retail merchants and banks and what the value proposition is. So I really like that challenge.
Yeah, and I did mean challenge in a good way, in the sense of like I can climb this mountain. Like this is one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And Colin, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
I encourage people to always find me on LinkedIn. I post most of my content and more frequently on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of engagement there. Or my website, engageselling.com, for those people who like to read blogs or subscribe to blogs and newsletters, can always find me there as well. Those are probably the two best places.
Cool stuff. And thank you again for joining me, Colleen. I really appreciate your time today. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to go and check out Colleen Francis on LinkedIn. As you just said, check out the website Engage Selling, and drop her a message. I'm sure she would love to hear from everybody. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing and we'll see you on the next one.